Playing poker with the fairy gang was like taking candy from a unicorn. Smith chuckled as he stepped into the chaotic swirl of the interstitial portal, his pockets chinking with gold, silver, and the odd jewel or two. He'd been having such a run of luck that he delayed leaving until the last moment. As a result, to get to work on time, he had to cut through the Vegas Interstices, one of his least favorite places in all the realms. Vegas was an interstitial hub. Gates opened from all the realms directly into it, probably because, like its Earthside counterpart, the Vegas Interstices catered to every self-gratification, amusement, and vice that any entity could desire, regardless of their supernatural roots. Smith hated the damned place even worse than he hated the demon realm where his mother still lived. Before he'd signed on as Enchanted Occasions tech guru, he'd worked as a dealer in a casino here. The ILE, Interdimensional Law Enforcement, had a real stick up their collective ass about what they allowed demons to do, and the Vegas Interstices was one of the few places they relaxed their uptight rules. The hours had suited him anyway. Smith was not a morning person, and mornings weren't any more popular here than in Earthside, Las Vegas. Plus, the endless buffet meant that he was never without the overdone meat that he needed to sustain his defective inner flame. But the edge of desperation that clung to everyone who stopped at his blackjack table was more than he could take. And since the casino was demon-owned and operated, the bets at his table weren't cash, precious metals, or gemstones. They were pieces of the players' souls. The pit boss had called him on the carpet when Smith refused to collect the last soul crumb from an elderly satyr. During their argument, the guy found out Smith wasn't a full demon. He was a HAH, a half-and-half, a.k.a. H'er, someone who was a mixture of human and one or more supernatural races. The boss's lip had curled in disgust, and he'd fired Smith on the spot. It wasn't until Smith signed on with Enchanted Occasions that he was judged not for his heritage, but for his skills and character. For that, he owed Mikos, EO's owner, anything he cared to ask, even when that meant showing up for a gods-forsaken 6 a.m. meeting in the Athens Interstices. The Athens Intergate was on the opposite side from the ferry portal, so Smith cut through the grounds of the Twilight Carnival, a sprawling amusement park in the heart of the Interstices. The crowds were sparse enough at this hour that he could see the place was seedier than the last time he'd visited. Apparently, the carnival management didn't share EO's dedication to turning out a superior customer experience. Along the midway, the Barkers made only a cursory attempt to lure him into their games of chance. Half the light bulbs chasing around the painted sign over the ring toss game were burned out. The banners over the sideshow tents sagged on their guy ropes, their lurid pictures faded and grimy, and the door of the laser tag labyrinth tilted crazily on broken hinges. Smith wondered how long it would be before the Interstices copied the Earthside Las Vegas pattern and wiped the whole thing out to start fresh. A lackluster fanfare announced a sideshow bally, a teaser meant to draw the sparse crowd into the main tent. The talker, a hulking guy in an over-decorated red tailcoat, had a reasonable patter, but he needed to tone down his glare if he didn't want to scare all the rubes away. Still, as an exotic, seductive flute melody drifted over the substandard public address spell, Smith found himself swerving from his intended path. Would the act be as uninspired as the surroundings? Too often, the performers ended up being H'ers, those who couldn't find more self-respecting work elsewhere. Smith knew all about that. That's why he'd been working in the damned casino. As he approached, the curtains at the back of the bally platform parted, and someone stepped out. The shallow stage wasn't very high, so the performer's head was the only thing visible over the onlookers who had gathered to watch. Smith got the impression of wavy, shoulder-length dark hair before the performer thrust a muscled arm into the air. A man, then. His smooth brown skin was encircled at the wrist by the gem-encrusted metal gauntlets that all the carnival workers sported, and he held a flaming torch in his fist. Fire. Totally my thing. Smith quickened his pace and shouldered his way to the middle of the audience. The performer was facing the rear of the stage.